All right, this is Openstax U.S. History, Chapter 32, Section 3, New Century Old Disputes. So we got a rather brief chapter here. This is really just looking at the 2000s conflicts and some areas for conflict in the country in that decade. One had to do with demographics and population, not starting in the 2000s, but really intensifying in the 2000s. It became clear that the white majority was coming to an end, and especially due to the increase of Latino immigration. So increased really ever since the 1960s President Johnson immigration changes. You can see from this map here, ancestry in the 2000s, specifically Mexican heritage, really sort of encapsulating the Southwest here. And this pushed over, amongst other things, disputes over immigration, but also laws to try and maybe guard kind of traditional American culture, specifically in the form of language. So for example, you saw states define specific language, right? And that would be, of course, English, because most or many Latino immigrants were Spanish speakers. And so in the debate over immigration and the debate over creating a common unified language, this played out not just socially but also politically. Another big debate or conflict in the 2000s was the debate over marriage, specifically the status of gay marriage. If you'll recall, in 1996, DOMA, or the Defense of Marriage Act, defined marriage between one man and one woman. But states themselves took it upon them, really states or on the state level, took it upon themselves to create their own marriage laws. I believe DOMA was eventually struck down by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional. I don't see it right here in front of me, so don't hold me to that. But states created a new category called civil unions, which was a civil union was something that had the same legal standing as marriage, but didn't call it by marriage. Instead used a different term, civil unions. And then, of course, in the aftermath of that, and as this debate intensified throughout the 2000s, states took it upon themselves to kind of make clear what their particular stance was. Some states allowed for gay marriage. Some states specifically defined marriage between a man and woman only. So depending on what state one lived in, kind of the stance on this particular issue was very much reflective of that. Lastly, climate change, another conflicted issue, I might say. Greenhouse gases. This is, amongst other things, carbon emissions. Things like automobiles, coal-burning power plants, that when you burn a fossil fuel like petroleum, like coal, it puts greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, which leads to a warming of the climate. The American public was split on this particular issue as well. Some advocating for something to be done more about reducing greenhouse gases and addressing the problem of climate. Others believing that it's really not even worth the time of the government to take action, or some even believing that it doesn't exist, or that it's a conspiracy or a hoax. The Kyoto Protocol was a meeting with other nations to agree to reduce greenhouse emissions. Kyoto is a city in Japan. And An Inconvenient Truth was a very influential documentary film. By former presidential candidate Al Gore about climate change and its impact, and it had a really profound impact on the public about raising awareness. So whether or not the issue was climate change, does it exist, is it a hoax, should we do anything about it, what's your definition of marriage, are you for gay marriage, or are you for marriage only between a man and a woman, are you in favor of civil unions, and questions regarding immigration, a common unifying language. These were all the types of conflicts that, or old disputes that played out against the political and social and cultural backdrop in the United States during the 2000s.